guys, welcome back to Genis-Vell Custom. So today we're going to start a work in progress series of turning my Prime 1 Green Lantern into a Genis-Vell Captain Mar-Vell custom for myself. Love this statue, and I really want to, get a grail of Genis-Vell for myself for my own collection, and I knew this would be the perfect pose and statue for it. So we're going to start off with a couple things today. First is, of course, we'll have to do some tweaking with the head, and then we're going to have to chop off some stuff here and there. So just to give myself an idea with a marker, I know I need to take out the shoulder pads, which are here. I need to take out the chest piece here. And then what I'm probably going to have to do is kind of sand down some of these lines around the chest of there as well. The hands are removable with rods, so I'm probably going to have to design it where I might keep the hands attached. I don't know, we got to work that out. And then we got to kind of work out the boots a little. So some of this boot stuff around here, there, and there's got to come off. But we're going to utilize the bottom of the boots for his stuff because I think it'll work out pretty cool. So a couple things is, of course, we got to take out the ring as well. So I think I'm going to have to kind of start planning some stuff. I think I'm going to do the major stuff first. The other thing too is we want to get this piece off here, so I'm not really sure how they did this, but I want to salvage. Not sure how they might have just bent it and put it through the hand. I'm not really sure. I don't want to break it, but I think I want to pull this out. Alright, so that's kind of how they did that. So I want to save the lantern just in case I need it for anything. So you see we got the lantern off, and I think what they might have done is they might have, no, maybe they didn't slip this through. I'm going to have to go into the garage and find out. I might have to do some twisting, or, let's see. That's the only thing with some of these customs, when you start messing with stuff, you got to kind of just take it slow to see exactly what they did, because if you're not careful, you can just like break the hand. So I'm not really sure how they did this. It doesn't look like they slipped it through their hand, because I don't know how they got there. These might be separated. No, kind of. Yeah, it's kind of in there pretty good if they use glue. So I might actually have to go in there into the garage and see what I could do with that. So we won't mess with that too much right now. We're going to take off the body. One of the reasons why I'm starting this right now is because I got a lot of stuff in the garage I'm chopping up. So I figured I could kind of start mixing this into the batch. At least start getting all this ready. There's really not that much, but we got to take out the wrinkles. That's because Genis really doesn't have a lot of wrinkly outfits, so we might just kind of take out some of these wrinkles as well. I'm not going to strip the statue because it seems like a lot of the items that are coming out from the companies now are really good with primer and stuff. And I've also, in the past, sometimes when I strip statues, I find a lot of errors that they covered up and the primer filled up, and then I got to recover it. So I just kind of make sure I wear my mask, and when I do all my drumming stuff, I have my vacuum cleaner sucking up all the dust as I'm drumming, and just to make sure you're not breathing in any of that paint and stuff. But that should be pretty fine, no problems there. So the next step is I want to test to see if this green stuff is actually green resin or if it's clear or just painted green. You never know these days. So I went and picked up some nail polish remover. And what we're going to do is we're going to start doing some testing. Just throw some nail polish. Probably going to get high from this stuff. It's got a pretty strong scent. So I guess what we'll do is we'll kind of test right here. Kind of see. This might be clear. Okay, so maybe the green's coming off a little bit, but I'm not really sure. Let's get a paper towel instead. I thought maybe that stuff would work, but it's kind of sticking. I'm not really sure if... Okay, I think this is a clear green on top of clear resin, because that's looking kind of, see, it's coming off. I just want to put my fingernail to see if I think we're, alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit more up over here. Yeah, this is definitely probably clear, because I'm looking at this magnet now, and that magnet is painted, so it looks like this is all going to be clear resin, which is awesome. Alright, so this is going to take a lot of patience to sit here and take all that out. But now at least I know taking all this off, I'm going to have a nice clear resin piece that I could paint yellow. So it'll be like a Genesis Power Trail. So this is going to be some tedious work. I think today I'm going to kind of take my time, take a lot of it off. Not really going to film myself doing it because I could just pop on a movie, sit down, relax, and just keep going. But yeah, this is going to be awesome. So I'm really happy that I actually get clear resin. So that's a good plus. Other than that, other than getting high today with just doing some of this, maybe what I'll do is I'll take this piece off because this is a removable piece here. We'll start with this one. And then what I'll do is after that I'll start working on this base down the line. It's going to be a long project. I really want to make sure I get a lot of this off. I don't really want a lot of green showing. You know, you could dip it into something, but you know, with it being clear resin, you don't want to dip it into anything because it can kind of make it funky. I think if I just keep doing this, but if it doesn't really mess up the plastic too much, I think it'll work out pretty cool. So by the time we come back, hopefully we'll have a lot of him chopped up, and maybe we'll have all the clear resin pretty much cleared, taking off all the green. What we're going to have to do too is we're going to rig up a base or something where I can actually put this foot into something, and also maybe something to hold his back, so this way while I'm customizing, working, he can actually stand up and do that, because we don't want to paint him while he's on here. It's kind of a pain because of all that stuff covering it. So that's pretty much the setup. That's good news. So we're looking pretty good, and hopefully by the next step we're ready to start, you know, sculpting out some muscles and getting the outfit going. You know, maybe what I'll do is if I get a chance, I'll chop up the mask a little bit too, the hair, get that ready, and we'll just go from there. Alright, so I wanted to do a kind of like a mid update. So what I did is I just pretty much put on the movie, and I'm just sitting here taking this down. It took about a good 2 hours to get this done, because up here, literally I just put some of the nail polish remover on the paper towel and I wiped it and it came right off. But then as I started getting down here, it was super thick. I mean, like a really thick coat of green on there. So you can see what I did is I got a foil container, paper towels. I had to use a toothbrush to get into some crevices. I was using Q-tips, a sponge. I had to submerge a little bit, but it kind of evaporates, so you know, that's where we're at. So I used a lot of the bottle, as you can see. I'm only going to have to get another bottle here and there for the other part of the base. But next step is, when I'm ready to start painting this up, I want to make sure that we get a lot of the green tin, as much as I can, away. There's nothing I can do about it because it's stained. I have this 3M pads, ultra fine and micro fine. You get at like an auto parts store, you know, like for like just for like, I guess, what is it, headlights and stuff like that. They use it for. So what I'm gonna probably do is I'll do some wet sanding when I get a chance down the line. I want to let this dry. I don't want to put any more liquids or try any more with it. I'll probably wet sand it down. Try to get as lot of this green off as possible. I'm not going to get into all the crevices because it's just not going to get in there. But I think at this point we're looking pretty good. So we're going to kind of clean up a little bit, and then maybe what I'll do is I'll do some more of the base today, but then I'll stop because I just want to take a break from it. But I just wanted to try to, you know, get as much as I can off of here. But I think we're looking pretty good. Okay, so we got another update going. What happened was, as I was getting down to the bottom of the base here, it just, it wasn't really coming off with this stuff. This stuff is just kind of regular, old-fashioned, original nail polish remover. It's got, I think it's got acetone in it. Yeah, it does have some acetone in it, but it really wasn't working. So I figured let me go try Walmart and see if they have anything. So this is kind of like an advanced formula. So I figured let me try up this. I tried it up, and the stuff comes off beautifully now. So I think this is going to work out pretty good. But I'm at the point now where I can't get in here with paper towels with my fingers. It just is not working. So I got all these, you know, cheap Q-tip swabs. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to go into each little corner and get stuff out. I'm not really worried about if I mess up any of the rocks, because that's going to get painted anyway. But I really want to get all this like green off as much as I can. So I think what's going to happen is, once I get a lot of the majority off and everything's looking good, I'm going to also have to do another layer of like wiping it all down. So I really got to get in all here. The reason why this looks like green and this kind of turns into a yellowish green up here is because this still has a lot of darkness with the rocks and also the green there, so it's kind of reflecting up. But I think as much as I could get off and everything, and once we do a yellow coat onto it, I think it'll really pop a little bit more. I think things will work out pretty cool. As I'm working on it too, I'm thinking of maybe some other stuff. What I might do is, when I paint up a lot of this yellow, what I might try to do is I might try to hit yellow pearls behind the rock so it looks like it's glowing onto the rocks. But then when I do all my dry brushing, it'll look like, you know, we got a glow coming in this direction, but you're seeing the rock. So I'm kind of thinking of, like, you know, some little extra stuff I could do to the base that might look pretty cool as I'm working. But this is just tedious work. Like I say, I just pop on a movie, listen to music, and just sit there and take my time taking it all out. But this is just something I really, for myself, I want to make it look as great as possible. So just going to keep plugging away, and then hopefully maybe by the next, you know, update part of the video, it's pretty much cleaned up. Like I said, I'm not filming myself doing this because it's so tedious. It's just mind-bending numb just to do this. Plus, the fumes kind of get you a little high. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll take the glove off, I'll take off the you know, paper towels, I'll throw it all in the garage, air out the room, and walk away for a bit because I don't want to be breathing this stuff in like 24 hours a day. Alright, so another little update. So what I had to do is I got a bunch of these Q-tips. I've had these things for ages. I really don't use Q-tips as much as I used to. So what I'm doing is just going in here with the, you know, nail polish, getting in there. So I'm getting to the point now where there's little crevices where I just can't get into. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to use these pieces, these things for like eyelashes and eye makeup. But the only problem is like the acetone will start loosening up the glue on these, so it's kind of hard. But going as far as I can, I think what's going to happen is once I get most of the green off and I get a lot of this stuff going, I'm going to try to go out into the garage like one day, and what I'll do is I'll do a nice wet down of like getting on my latex gloves, getting the paper towels, and really like wet it all down, but turn it upside down so it's not dripping down this way, it's dripping down the other way. But I think it's getting there. It's still stained with some green, but I think once you get that yellow clear on there, it might take away the green as much as possible, but we'll see how it works out. I don't think, you know, any of these little areas in here that's got these little green marks and stuff, I don't think it's the end of the world if some of them are still in there. If I can't get them out, it might add a little bit more to it anyway. If anything really does bother me with that green in there, I could always maybe just hit it with some white. You know, kind of cover it up a little bit too, because, you know, the powers he has is like a clear, it's like yellow powers with some white bright into it. So, you know, I could always maybe throw a little in there. We'll see how things go, but so far it's getting there. One thing though I noticed is when I put a lot of the heavy nail polish stuff, it drips down into the rock areas, and then all the green goes in there. That's fine because I'm going to be redoing the rocks anyway, and it's really kind of crazy that this stuff is coming off pretty well. But I'm learning though, I think this whole base is clear. I'm not really sure, or part of it might be clear, but when I'm doing some rocks around here, we're starting to see some clear areas. So I'm not really sure how far clear this base is. Of course, you know, I could have, this stuff has acetone in it too, so I was thinking, you know, what if I bought a couple bottles and I just dipped it and I just kind of, you know, did a big thing. But this thing is so bulky, I'm really worried about breaking any of these pieces, because if I break anything up here, it's pretty much a done deal. So I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, but it's getting there. Okay, so I'm really happy with where we're at. After the last part of the video, what I did is I went into the garage, and I put on, you know, a foil container on the ground, and what I did is I grabbed my paper towels, rubber gloves, and I pretty much was pouring, you know, the nail polish onto the paper towels. I was wiping it all down, getting a lot of that, you know, staining off of it. There's still a little bit of like a green tint to it, but it's nowhere near like where it was in the beginning, where if I was to paint it, it would still look green. Now we're at the point where if I'm going to paint this yellow, the yellow is going to really show, and it's going to look like good powers for him. So I'm really happy with that. There are some areas though that I just couldn't get paint out of. I tried. Those are like little divots and stuff, but those like are rock areas, as you can see. Those like you know, we got this, and this. These are rocks flowing into it, so that's going to get painted up with rocks anyway, so I'm not worried about that. Now, there is a little bit of green tints at the bottom of the base, but that's a lot of the stained green flowing into the rocks. What I did is I tried to get a lot of the paint off of those rocks in there. So we're still going to be painting part of the back of these rocks like yellow, and then when I do my dry brushing of the rocks, it's going to look like it's glowing onto the rocks. So you'll see how that comes up down the line. So at this point, I'm really happy with where we're at. There's really not much more to do to the base, other than I'm going to do some of that wet fine ultra sanding just to kind of see if I can get any little bit more of a buffness to it. Maybe get some more of the stain off as much as I can, but I think we're as far as we can go. And then what I'll probably do is we're going to figure out something probably here. What I'll probably do is I'll probably put stars, or maybe we'll just fill these in. I don't know. We'll figure out what I'm going to do with those there yet still. But at this point, the base is really ready to go. I don't really think there's much. Oh, of course, there's the other part up here. Once I get Genis into the base and he's all customized and I got the bracelets, the nega bands on him and all that stuff, I'll figure out how far I want to cut this piece, because I don't want this going into his finger. I kind of want it wrapped around to almost where it looks like it's hitting the band. I might have to kind of do some heat set with this too, like hit it with the blow dryer or the heat gun and kind of melt it a little bit, but I have to do that before we paint him up anyway. So that's one of the last pieces of the base. But there you go. So just a little bit of work, taking your time. You can use nail polish to wipe off any of the stuff that's got a clear resin tint. Other than that, I wish I could have just dipped it in acetone, but if I pulled it out of acetone, it would have been all it just would have been all cloudy. It would have been like scraping. It would have been eaten alive. We don't want that. But just working with the nail polish worked out pretty cool. So that's where we're at. Hopefully the next step we can start coming back working on Genis and getting him ready for custom work. Alright, so I had a chance to take a personal day for myself just to work on some my own projects, and I wanted to get outside today and actually get in there and Dremel out this Green Lantern. So you can see what I did, everything, getting all the wrinkles out, all the armor, working out the boots, and of course as we're working out the shoulder we find out it's all hollow up there. Now, not every statue is hollow, but this one seems to be hollow up top. So it's pretty much only was a bubble here, so I'm thinking they must have cast it up and poured it in this direction, I think. Maybe like in the shoulder pad or something, and maybe they did kind of turn it around, but there must either there was a huge air bubble, or maybe this is just kind of what the factories do these days. Because every once in a while I'll work on something and I find out that, when I Dremel into an arm or to a leg or to a torso or head, it's hollow. So factories must be saving on resin, where they figure they could throw in enough resin in there, kind of turn it around, let it cure, and then have an air bubble, and they save on money. Now, I don't think this is a design to make it hollow, because it's only up here. I mean, if they really wanted to make this hollow and not really weigh down the statue, it wouldn't be solid in the legs, because it is a pretty heavy statue. So my guess is they just threw in a bunch of resin, they kind of turned it around, they left an air bubble in there, and they could save money. Now, you might be asking, well, they're not really saving a lot of money. Yeah, they are, because if they're producing 1,000 of these and they're saving that much air bubble room on resin, and then per statue, you save a lot of money, and you don't have to, you cut costs that way. So I'm not saying every statue is like this, and I'm not saying it's the end of the world if your statues have an air bubble, but the only problem is if you ever break it or it cracks or something like that and you go to repair it, then you have a world of trouble. So it's also good too that I didn't dip this in acetone, because I know in the past I've dipped a couple items in acetone to strip them, and I find out that they were hollow and they were so thin in certain areas that acetone would seep in there, and then all of a sudden the acetone's sitting in there and I never get it out, and then all of a sudden like it's leaking and it's messing up an item. So that's why sometimes these days I'm actually scared to strip certain statues in acetone, especially bigger ones, because bigger ones seem to be hollow in certain areas, whereas like maybe some females and smaller statues, maybe like 1/6, usually are pretty solid, and I've never really run into an issue with some of them. It all depends on the mass of the body. If it's like a big piece, they're probably going to try to do something like this. Even if I didn't get to that point here, and I got over to here and I Dremeled out the magnet, I would have found out that it was hollow, because there's not much meat in the bottom there for the magnet, as you can kind of see. You can kind of see in there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mix up some magic sculpt. I'm going to try to fill in some of this area here. It doesn't really matter if I fill this in to a point. It's not really going to change any of the weight on the base or anything like that. Just giving it a little bit of, what I'm going to try to do is kind of fill it in an area where I can actually start sculpting onto it, and then once I pretty much get this done and I start working out the chest, we're going to start priming up the item so I can start seeing all my errors. I tried to get a lot of the line work out, all the wrinkles. We still got a ways to go, but I just wanted to get the majority of it done today. But we're looking pretty good so far. Alright, so as you saw, what I did is I put Magic Sculpt on my pinky to try to get into there, and I filled in some areas that are really thin. I wanted to make sure that if I do any sand work, I do more sculpting with Aves, I don't start to sand down and all of a sudden I don't realize it's so thin that maybe when I go to paint it or mask it, I push my finger through it. So I just wanted to make sure that I thicken up some areas. This shoulder is going to get rebuilt anyway with Aves because it's really not, you know, it's just kind of like a bone structure there right now. So we're going to kind of fill in this area a little bit more. As you saw though, it's very hard to actually fill in something hollow like this without having some kind of a wall. So what I did is you just roll up, you know, tin foil, you shove it into the hollow statue, throw in a little Aves or glue or whatever, throwing some more, tin foil, and you basically build a wall. Now all this tin foil that's shoved in here is not going to do anything. It's like a lot of traditional sculptors that do that. You'd be surprised on how many hollow statues that you get in garage kits and stuff that people shove a lot of stuff in there. Especially I've seen, fiberglass castings. God only knows what people throw in those things. So it's as long as we get the final project and it's secured and detailed and it's everything's working, it's good. So as I was about to come back to this video, I realized I got some more Magic Sculpt sitting on the side. So is there anything else I need to do? And then I remembered that these pieces, these 2 feet are glued in. So this is casted separate, and that's casted separate, and this is attached. So I was like, you know what? Let me kind of just Dremel out around here just to make sure there's no air bubbles. And sure enough, even though it's glued in there pretty well, there was a big air bubble here that there wasn't a lot of glue. And you could kind of see around here a little bit as well. So I figured, you know what? Let me kind of Dremel around here and we'll throw some Magic Sculpt around here. Because I'm going to still build the boots around here. But I figure when I'm ready to start sanding this down more and everything, at least if I got a nice good chunk of Magic Sculpt around here that's holding this even thicker, it's going to be better in the long run because this foot and this body goes in here, so it's nice to have this a little bit more secured. So I'm going to fill this in right now, and then once this pretty much is cured up in the next day or so, I can do a nice priming of the item. We'll get them all primed up so I can start seeing what detailing I need to do. We got some more wrinkles to take out, but little by little he's going to get there. It's really not that much. It's just a matter of just really working out some of these abs and stuff a little bit more once you take out the wrinkles, but I'm liking it so far. Okay, so we're still doing some prep work, and I decided before I do any prime work on him, I want to make some kind of a generic base holder so this way I can paint him and I don't have to worry about him, laying down on the ground like this when I paint something up and then accidentally it's not dried yet or it gets warped, So you want to make something that can hold him up. And since this guy's a little tricky for his pose, this is what I came up with. So I have a lot of wood in the garage and for housework and stuff. So I just grabbed some couple planks of wood, I cut them up, I sanded down the edges too, just so when I grab it I don't get any splintering, because I use a bandsaw to cut them. And then what I did is I screwed down a couple pieces here and there. So now at least we have a base that's not going to it's not a heavy base to hold them, but at least it's not going to wobble. So what I did was I went into the garage and I also cut this little brass, hollow brass square piece. I cut down the edge of it, and then I clipped the edge and then I sanded off the edges, so this way when I put epoxy glue in there it doesn't seep all the way up in here. It's going to kind of cure there. So now I have a little piece here that's going to go onto that peg, and then what I did is I drilled a hole in the wood like that, so I'm going to glue this metal rod in there so it's going to hold him. So what we'll do is we'll have a nice base that'll hold him up. So once I get this done with the key Magic Sculpt, I'll probably use some Magic Sculpt down here and everything. So the next thing is I'll probably get a plank of wood or a piece of wood up here or some metal or rods or something to kind of connect to the back of him, which is there's a little square back here that has a magnet for the clear base, because he connects into the base and then he's actually supported too by some of the clear in the back. So I want to make sure that when I'm actually working on him, he's kind of secured, but I don't want to make sure that whenever I'm working on him, I don't want to leave him in this position too long, because I don't want any kind of warping with this peg or any of the body breaking or anything. So we're going to have to kind of do some rigging. I might also have to put something over here that connects to, that kind of supports from here. So this way if I do the blue on him and it's cured, and then what I could do is I could put a piece of wood or a rod or something with some padding here just to kind of hold him up when I do the red. So it's going to be a little tricky, but you know, I think if I take the extra steps to make myself a nice, you know, base holding him up, I won't run into problems down the line. It's better to take these extra steps now than down the line I'm painting him, and then all of a sudden it's like I painted him, I let him sit down, I didn't pay attention, I came back and he's stuck to the table, or he's stuck to any kind of like, you know, foam padding I have on there or whatever. So, you know, I want to make sure I got something going. So we're going to start working on this, and then once all this is done, we can actually start prepping and do everything else. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes or so. It's pretty much curing. If you notice too, when I put this in there, some of it did leak through, but it's at the point now where it goes in there pretty good. So we're looking good. It's a little bit tacky, but that's actually not bad because it kind of strengthens it up a little bit. So we're looking good on that sense. We still have to work out the key a little bit with some magic sculpt, and then we also got to work out the back. So what I'm going to try to do now is I'm going to try to make some kind of something for the back of it. At least just get something going for now. So I'm going to go into the garage, and I got to kind of come up with some stuff. Just want to make sure we're getting him in there pretty good. Okay, so looks like he's going to stay in there pretty well. So like I said, I got to come up with something for his back. So we want to keep him at least at this angle like this, and I want to come something that like sits right into his back like that. So I got to come up with a rod of some sort that connects into that back hole. And I think if I do that at this angle, I think it'll work out pretty good. I think it'll be able to hold him as long as I work out a little bit of a key more over here, and this way he's working. So I got to come up with something like here. So I'm gonna have to go in the garage. I'm gonna look at some parts that I got. Maybe I got a metal rod where I can actually screw it in or glue it down or something. But I think if it works out to the point where I can slide him in a way, and then like pretty much get him down there to work. See, it's still a little tacky at the bottom, but that's okay. At least it holds it pretty well, which is good. So if I could slide him in and like kind of like bend him down, maybe I won't even have to do any kind of eaves work down here. Maybe this will just work out perfect. So maybe I'll just have to do that. But I'll have to just make sure that it's not bouncing around and anything wiggles. But I think by securing this leg too with some more magic sculpt, it's going to help out a lot. So let me go in the garage and figure that out, and then we'll come back and see what I came up with. Okay, so this is what I came up with for this item, and I think we're working, I think this is going to work out pretty good. So what I did is I drilled out a hole, big hole here in the wood, and I got this metal rod which is threaded. I use these for a lot of those like 2-foot stall kits like the Juggernaut and Venomite did when I need to pin and stuff. You get this like long rods at Home Depot, and they're fairly cheap and they're great for, you know, these large kits. So what I did is I flattened out this piece up here a little bit. I think what I need to do is kind of like work out some of this threading, just kind of sand some more of this threading down. But what I'm going to grab is some epoxy. We're going to throw some epoxy in there, and that's going to lock this into place. So this way, when I put him into this here, and then I put him there, he should connect pretty well. I think what I got to do is slide him down a little bit more, and get him over here like so. So he sits on the base pretty well, and he's really secured now, as you can see. I mean, just alone, that's sitting on there pretty well. So I think what's going to happen is I'm going to make sure that this rod, though, is secured. So I'm going to grab some of my Durham's plumber's putty you get at Home Depot. And once I get this set up with the epoxy, then I'm going to put the Durham's putty around it just to really lock this in place. Now, as far as this foot over here, I don't really think I need to do any more with that one. I don't know if maybe I should throw a little bit of magic sculpt on it, maybe just underneath the foot. But the idea, though, is I need some kind of give to kind of get him locked in place, to lift up, get in here, and then lock in place. So maybe I don't have to. The main reason I'm doing this is so I can paint him. I'm not doing this so this way when I do the sculpt work, because I could do the sculpt work and say, like, you know, I do this left foot, I can lean him on the side and let that cure, and then the next day I could do the right foot, you know. So I could turn him and let him go where I need to go. But as far as painting wise, I got to make sure he's secured. So I might have to kind of just pull this up a little. Yeah, I got to take out some of that threading. But yeah, when I do it, I got to kind of pull him up a little bit more. Yeah, I think that'll work. Yeah, it's always stuff you gotta kind of toy with. But, alright, so I'm going to work out some of that threading up top first, and then we could come back and I can get him, and I think this will be a good setup. Okay, so I went in the garage, I made sure everything was lined up correctly, and I think this is going to work out pretty good. So I put 3 pieces of wood over here. This one actually broke when I was doing it, but that's fine. I want to lock this in place a little bit more. The reason why is because in the past I've made, like, you know, setups like this for statues, and I figured, you know, that's going to hold, and all of a sudden I'm working on the item and it doesn't hold, it falls out. I accidentally hit it and it wasn't secured enough, and then, you know, I have to fix the item. It's just, you know, I'd rather be safe than sorry. So I have this Durham's water putty. You get this stuff at like Home Depot for like 16 bucks this can. It's really great. You just mix it with water, and it's made for like your plumbing in your house, but a lot of the hobby guys, and even on the back of it says you can use it for hobby stuff too. It's really great. So basically all I'm doing now is I'm just gonna like throw this around in here just to kind of help lock it in place. This stuff is great for like securing stuff, but it's not like it. I mean, it could crack, it could break if you're like, you know, smashing it and you're, you know, you're doing stuff around with it. But I just like to be a little bit safe with this. Just it's not the end of the world if you use a couple of this just to kind of secure it. And like I said, this is a grail for me, so I want to make sure that, you know, I get this done right and everything's looking pretty good. This stuff cures, you know, in like a day or so. It all depends on how much powder you mix with water. I gave a little bit of more of like a paste looking because I wanted to kind of seep in the cracks a little bit. But I just want to make sure this is really secured. And this is a cheaper alternative than using like, you know, Mag-Sculpt or Aves if you want to fill in certain areas. Like, you know, you could use this stuff actually to fill up the whole, you know, the hollowness up there on the item too. I've seen guys, because I learned this at Jersey Fest like 2 or 3 years ago. One of the guys I know for a long time, he had a base there, and he told me about, you know, I was like, what is this stuff under here? And he just told me it's this water putty stuff. And once it really cures, it's pretty durable. So like I said, I just want to take the extra steps and make sure everything's good. But I think we got a really nice, good temporary base for him now. And then the other thing too is a lot of these temporary bases that I kind of make, I just leave them in the garage. If they're really crappy and they go to hell, I throw them away. But something like this, you know, what I could do is I could probably, you know, I could just bandsaw it off, throw this piece away, or I can use this for another item down the line, or I could try to unscrew this because it's threaded, so I could probably unscrew it and I can salvage this piece too down the line. So it's not the end of the world. But yeah, there we go. So that's where we're at with this. Hopefully once this cures up and we get a chance, we'll come back, we'll prime him up, we'll see if I need to do any more prep work on the head and the hands. And then hopefully after we get all that prep work done and everything set up, we can start doing all the custom work. Okay, so we are in a great position right now. Pretty much chopped up. I found a lot more errors I needed to take down, and we're almost ready to start doing all the custom work on them. So just kind of explain everything that we do, finish up this video. So I got the lantern hand off here, and the problem was this metal rods were in there so tight. No matter how much I wiggled, I couldn't get those suckers out. I don't know how they got in there, but they did a hell of a job. So I decided, you know what, instead of breaking these fingers and messing up this hand, I just clipped off each side, and then I got my, you know, like diamond tip Dremel bit, and I just kind of grinded down the metal so I could just work out the fingers. So at least that's ready to go. Took down the ring finger off of there as well. And what I did is I wet sanded him down, got all that gloss coat off of him with sandpaper, you know, and then let him dry for a day or two, and then I did my prime work on him. So once I primed him up, there was some other stuff I needed to take out. So you see there's some more wrinkles and stuff around here. Some of the shoulder pads, like edges, were still showing. So I took all that stuff down. Then I also sanded down this leg over here so it's nice and smooth. But then when I was looking at this one, I dremeled it down a little bit, and I realized this is actually glued in as well. So I just grinded it down like I did with the other foot, and I had some extra Aves tonight, so I just threw some Aves on it, and that's fine because this leg isn't hitting anything, so it doesn't matter. You know, you don't really need super support on there. So After all that was done, I said, you know what, let me get the head going as well. So I wanted to salvage the hair, but the problem is, as a kid, it's very hard to match the hair and sculpt. And I always have a problem, like if I grind down the top of the hair and I try to match it, it's never going to be even, because I like to work off the skull. So I said, you know what, let me just sculpt my own hair, try to follow it more like the comic book. So I grinded down the whole head to baldness, I worked out the mask, and there we go. Now, if gives you guys an idea that the head is casted up in like a skin tone resin, like a translucent type resin, and then what they do is they do like washes and like airbrush stuff over it, and that's kind of what they do for skin tone. But this feels, it's a good head. It's not bad what they did. It just feels a little bit more orangey. I don't know. But it works out pretty cool. So it's going to be painted, you know, blue with a black space in the face anyway with white hair. So we're not worried about that. So for the next video, we're going to start working on the custom work. So I'm going to focus on working out the muscles. Then we're going to work out the line work for the outfit. Then we're going to move down to the boots. But you know, we have to kind of like sand and detail it, and as we go down. We're going to also probably work out the bands too on each hand. And then what I'm going to do is probably take out, well, I probably won't take out this peg. I'll leave this one in, but I'll grind this down a little bit. And then I'm going to have everything attached though by the end of the project. So the outfit actually comes to right about here. It doesn't come to here. You know, it comes right about there. So I'm going to attach this as well, even though this is magnetized. And we got to sand down the wrinkles and stuff. And then that's near the end. So the end will be the head and arms being attached, but we got to do everything else. Now, one of the other things too is to make my life easier is I'll probably Dremel out the magnet. I'll throw a rod in here, and then I'll use some A's or Magic Sculpt. So this way, at least when I sculpt the hair, I can put him into like a base and then set, instead of like letting him sit on his side and ruin the hair. So that's pretty much the prep work. Gives you guys an idea on how I do stuff. You know, it's pretty much getting the base ready to go, working up like a generic wooden rig or something for the figure for paint work, and just chop them up to start building up. So thanks for watching, guys. In the next video, we're going to start working on all the details.